Hey everyone, welcome to ISO 400. Every so often you come across an image or a series of images that you can't help but smile at, and that is definitely the case with this week's guest, Ashly Stohl, who just published her first monograph called Charth Vader, about her youngest son Charlie, who, as a way of dealing with the visual impairment, took to wearing a Darth Vader mask most places he went. And in this episode, she tells us about how this project came to be, how she went about getting it published, and much more. So, as always, our music is provided by Yuki Futami, a New York-based jazz musician. Thanks so much, and hope you enjoy. So, I'd like to start with what we were kind of talking about just before. Your book, Charth Vader, your first book about your youngest son, Charlie, who, from what I've read, has ocular albinism and has a certain fondness for Darth Vader, in that he wears the helmet a lot.
Yes.
And from what I've read in previous interviews with regards to this project, before this, your camera was kind of focused outside, and you slowly started moving the camera into your personal life, your family life. There was a shift from like the external to the internal. And I'm wondering, what was that like for you, at least maybe in the beginning, and sort of getting used to photographing those closest to you?
Yeah, it was a tough transition. You know, I had 3 kids.
Sure.
And
Yes.
I'd always been a sort of photo hobbyist. I was like your friend that would go on a trip and come back with 2,000 pictures.
Right.
And after I had Charlie, it was kind of this moment that is a little cliche, but I think all mothers go through, that like I have to do something for me or I'm going to lose my mind. And so I was taking pictures of anything but family. You know, I'd go down to Venice and take pictures of skateboarding. I would take Cuba and take pictures of skateboarding there. And those kinds of projects it was great and it was a nice escape, but those kinds of projects are also hard to do, and especially as a mom, a stay-at-home mom, because you can only do them when you're out in the place with the people.
Yeah.
So I'd spend a lot of time, I don't know, editing my images from Cuba, and then finally I was like, what am I shooting right now? I want to be shooting.
Right.
And actually, Elaine Smithson is one of the people that first said to me, you know, you really need to start shooting what's around you. But it didn't feel like an escape. It didn't feel like relief. So I don't know. I just started. Like, I was just determined to do it. And it started in a million different wrong ways. You know, I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? I wanted to focus on kind of the weird, like, horrible, mundane things about being a mother. It's not wonderful and great.
Right.
But, you know, I went through, I don't know, should I take pictures every 15 minutes? That is way too much, by the way.
I can imagine.
You know, and taking pictures of each thing I was doing, or, you know, I had a million different sort of ways to do it. And then somehow slowly got back to, this is how I take pictures naturally, and being able to photograph what's around me, sort of with my own eye, the way I normally shoot.
Right.
So I don't know. It was a weird sort of growing adjustment.
I'm sure. And when did Charlie first start wearing the Darth Vader helmet? Like, how did this all get started? I mean, once that happens, I'm guessing you realize, I got to photograph this kid. How did that all kind of come together?
He's funny. Like, he's always been funny. He came out one day, he was really into Star Wars. We couldn't ever get him to root for, like, you know, Han Solo or any of the good guys.
Yeah.
He was always rooting for Darth Vader.
Curious.
And he came out, which is funny because he's all like a sunshine and happy and the nicest kid. Like, you expect him to have a little evil streak.
Yeah.
But he came out one day in an astronaut helmet and a like polka dot blanket around him. And he said, this is the Darth Vader costume.
Oh my God, that's so good.
And I think I was messing around with a 4x5, and I have like a 4x5 Polaroid of that. And I feel like
that's great.
That was the first Charth Vader. And I started this little Tumblr.
Right.
And it was really just so it was like grandparents and aunts and uncles could see these funny pictures of Charlie.
Right.
And they were, then it became him in the swimming pool with the Charth Vader. Or the weird stuff that kids do, like wearing a jacket, sitting in a bucket with a Darth Vader helmet on.
Right.
I always say, like, these are things that, I could never think of.
Of course.
And it's sort of, it was on my iPhone. It was with whatever was handy. And then it was sort of like, oh, maybe I'll start really photographing this. And went from there.
Mm-hmm. And was there a particular moment when you realized I need to take a considered approach to this beyond just, say, iPhone snaps or whatever you had on hand?
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny. I'm naturally kind of a project-based person.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm always fighting that.
Why?
Because I think it's limiting.
I
aspire to be taking pictures all the time. I carry my camera with me everywhere I go.
Right.
But I just naturally am drawn to some kind of focus. And it's funny that I wasn't thinking of it as a project at all. It was just family snaps. It was not, not a thing.
Yeah.
And I think it took me some time to be able to separate what is my photography from what are mom pictures of my kids.
Sure.
And sometimes it's a fine line.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of help and some outside eyes.
Yeah, I'm sure.
To help me determine that.
Yeah. And what was it? Because you had said somewhere else that the response to these Charth Vader photos was stronger than the response to your other work. And what do you think it is about these images that resonated with so many people? Because the response seems to be considerable.
Right. I know. I think, I don't know. I think they're a little dark and a little funny. I think they're, my favorite work is the work that's truly sort of someone. And I think this is very my sense of humor.
Sure.
And it's also Charlie's sense of humor. And I think, I don't know, maybe when something's sort of that honest, maybe people respond to that. It's more personal.
Yeah. No,
He's
totally.
little.
Yeah, he definitely looks little from the photos. Yeah. So what was the timeline for the project? How long were you working on this? When did you know we're finished?
Well, let's see. The timeline, I don't know that there was a timeline. I started working with David Carroll, who was helping me look at my work and go through it. He sort of helped me through some of that transition of photographing my family and what am I doing and how do I shoot. And, when you get way too into your head.
Right.
Which I tend to do. And, he was the one that said this would be a great book and it would be a sort of a good way to do a first book.
Right.
That's not like your great opus, like your...
Right.
It's not a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
It's a really specific project, would work well in a book, and let's turn this into a book. You need more images.
Right.
So it was like, oh, okay. And, for me, it's never as good when I'm consciously trying to do something.
Sure, yeah.
And so then there's that growing pain. And then there's getting Charlie's buy-in.
Of course.
The good thing is he'll do anything for a brand new $1 bill.
What specifically, like crisp from the bank?
That's not folded. Do not fold that thing. But he'll do almost anything for that.
Interesting.
So I bought some of those pictures $1 at a time. And then, so it wasn't kind of like, there wasn't really a deadline for the book.
Sure.
It was just, I'm not going to put this out until it's ready.
Right.
Until there are enough images that I'm really proud of, that sort of work together in a book.
Right. And how many images did you have towards the end of the project, and how many did you edit it down to?
Oh, I don't know how many I have in total. There are 28 in the book.
Right.
I think much more than that, it would start to become repetitive. I don't think you can. I don't think this is a 100 image project.
No, it doesn't seem like it.
But you need sort of a good taste of it and leave you wanting more.
Right. And I think one of the major things that's significant about this book is that you didn't send it out to some other publisher. You and David teamed up to make your own imprint, Peanut Press Books.
Yes.
So, I mean, congratulations on making that happen.
Thank you.
But why did you feel that you couldn't trust it to some other publisher? And how did the idea for Peanut Press sort of spring up?
Well, I think there's a thing where it's a couple things. It's so personal. The project is so personal.
Yeah.
And I have a design background. I used to do a lot of freelance graphic design and web design. Mm-hmm. So I'm familiar with the tools and comfortable making books.
Right.
And actually, when I was a graphic designer, everything I did was try and turn it into a book.
Oh, really?
To me, like, that's the end point of all things.
Got it.
Photographers see pictures on a gallery wall. To me, it's all a book.
Got it.
And I had a pretty clear idea, and so did David, of what the end result would look like, or at least be like, what it would feel like. Mm-hmm. And the thought of going to a publisher, having less control, it just didn't seem as fun as figuring out the whole process from the beginning. Right. So in the process of doing that, and David's published a bunch of his own books.
Right. Yeah.
And so he has experience and knows everyone, as you know. I think he gets mentioned once in an interview.
Yeah, he has for the last several. Yeah.
So I had the resources, and it was all honestly just fun.
Oh, that's good.
Like, to me, that stuff is fun. Picking out paper is fun. Going on press was a blast. It was all just great. And so while we were doing that, we were kind of saying, shouldn't it always be like this? Like, shouldn't it always be this much fun? Yeah. Shouldn't it always really be sort of the vision of the photographer? And so we are planning on publishing more books in the future. Yeah. Under our Peanut Press Books.
Very nice. And what was the idea behind the name Peanut Press? How did that come about?
Honestly, I think there was like a couple days of texting back and forth with ridiculous names, like trying to outdo each other in ridiculousness. Really? I think we both thought Peanut was funny. It's what I call Charlie.
Oh, do you? Okay.
I don't know. It sounded like a name.
That works. I think the logo looks great.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's exciting. If we go back to a second to the project Charth Vader, what in the process of I don't want to say working on it, but like taking those pictures of Charlie with the mask over however long. What did you learn about yourself as a photographer in the process of doing this project sort of maybe collaboratively with your son?
About myself, I think this has all kind of been a journey in like trusting my own eye. I'm starting to be able to say, okay, that's the kind of picture I can take. That's what I do. I can see us for Charlie, especially for Charth Vader. A lot of times it was finding the setting and letting him play within that. So a lot of it was looking at a landscape or a place and going, okay, that's a very me place to shoot.
Sure. Yeah. So would you guys, I mean, did you go out with the intention to photograph, or did he just bring the helmet everywhere? Like, what was the scope of it in some cases?
It was everything. Sometimes he was playing around in the helmet. Sometimes he was doing something funny, and I'd say, put the helmet on.
Right.
You know, going to get a haircut, sitting in the little airplane seat.
Yeah.
You know, it's just inherently humiliating. If you're 7, maybe you don't know that.
Right.
You put that helmet on him, he kind of slumps over, and it's a Charth Vader all of a sudden.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And so how long was the bookmaking process from, like, I guess maybe starting to consider which images would go into, like, final hardbound?
Honestly, I don't even know. I feel like it was probably a good 6 months of starting to talk about images. Mm-hmm. You know, it all takes time.
Yeah, of course.
The images in the book are all scans from prints. So, you know, first it's having the prints made.
Right.
Making sure you're happy with all the prints. Mm-hmm. And, you know, then all the pre-press, going through mock-ups and design ideas. Right. And going to press, scheduling all that. You know, it all takes time. I don't know, maybe 6 months. Okay. But I feel like it was a sort of a seed from much earlier. You know? So who can say? Who can say?
And what was it like getting the first box of, like, books that you were going to eventually ship out to everyone who had pre-ordered it?
Yeah, sheer terror. Because we had received everything in pieces. So you go to press, right, and you're scrutinizing the images. You're making sure the balance of everything is perfect. And then you get your little folded, you know, book with that's not bound. Right. You see that? Okay, that's fine. You get your binding separately. You get everything separately. And then all of a sudden this book shows up at your house. And you spend so much time, right, and money and effort and other people's time. And people have ordered it.
Right. Yes.
And I couldn't look at it. When it first came, I took one out and I couldn't look at it. And I sent one to David, and I said, you just have to look at it and tell me. I'm too scared. Like, is there some glaring typo? Is something upside down? Right. Is there something horribly wrong with it that's going to make you throw it in the trash? And he said, no, it's great. So then I looked at it, like, with one eye. And I have since looked at the entire book, and I'm really happy with it.
Good.
But it was a little terrifying because a lot of work and time had, you know, led up to that moment.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, of course. And Charlie, how did he feel about it? I mean, he is the star of the show.
Yes, he is. He's really proud of it. Excellent. It's funny because I don't think I could get him in the helmet again, but he's kind of over that. Mm. But he's really proud of the book. So if someone comes over, you know, we have a copy that's open, that's sort of his copy, and he'll take the book, and he'll sort of stand next to you and hold it. And so you say, what's that, Charlie? And then he'll start opening it and turning through pages until, you know, he wants to make sure you're interested.
Of course.
And, you know, he's signed a couple books.
Oh.
And, yeah,
that's exciting.
It takes some time.
I'm sure.
But I love that he's excited about it.
That's fantastic. And when did he finally lay down the helmet? Was there a particular day where he, like, put it, like, on the mantle or something, or
retired?
Right.
Friends that it was retired.
Yeah.
No, I think, you know, when you're making a book, there's a point where you're like, okay, I need 4 more killer images.
Yeah.
And those images, he was kind of over it by then, so that was a little like pulling teeth. And I don't even know what images those are. Right. But I remember there was a period where it was like, okay, come on, Charlie, what do you want? Like,
yeah.
And so it was sort of a gradual die off.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You know, now he's a celebrity. He's done.
Yeah, he needs to get out of the limelight for a little bit, and then he'll kind of
next move.
He'll kind of saunter back in. So, having done this successfully, the project and making the book and having it printed and sent out to everyone who pre-ordered, and more importantly, having done a project about a part of your family, like before you had said, I would photograph anything but family, and now you have, or at least a section of it. Where do you think this leaves you photographically from here? Do you think you'll do more family-related things, or like what's next?
Yeah, what's next is, well, my daughter would like me to do a project about her.
Okay.
This. I've always photographed my family, even while I was doing Charth Vader.
Right.
What's interesting is how much creative energy it takes to make a book.
Sure.
So I feel like, especially in the last couple of months, I've been taking pictures a lot less, just in my daily life.
Right.
So I'm kind of excited to just not have a plan.
Sure.
And just pictures of the people around me and whatever I'm doing, and get in a rut, get out of a rut, just not have an end game.
Yeah.
And then keeping Peanut Press going.
Yeah, of course.
All of that.
And if we could go back further, what was there photography in your family? Like, what got you to first pick up a camera? Like, how did that all get started for you?
I don't know. I wish I had like a really great story about that. I don't think I do. I went to UC Santa Barbara and I hung out with a lot of people from Brooks.
Okay. Is that significant? What does that mean?
It's a photography school.
Oh, okay.
I think it just closed down. I think it's primarily photojournalism.
Mm-hmm.
But so, I knew a lot of people with Hasselblads that were, I don't know, going around and take pictures, and I'd go with them and take pictures on whatever I had, little point and shoot. And I've just always enjoyed it. And then when I had my daughter, my first child, and I was home with her, and that was a big transition, going from a full-time job to being home with a baby. And it's a lot of like, all right, what are we going to do today?
Yeah.
So I had a camera, and I would take her picture, and I would try and improve them, and take more interesting pictures of her. And so for a long time, it was just kind of kids and travel. Sure. And whatever. And then like I was saying, midlife crisis. And then taking it a little more seriously.
Right. And when, at least on your website, you have two substantial galleries about skateboarding. One in California, I think, and then there's also one in Havana. What's the story behind those images? I know it seemed like, based on the text, that there was a big skateboarding culture, skating culture around where you grew up. And I'm wondering, how did that all kind of come together?
Well, I grew up in West LA, and when I was a kid, in the sort of late 70s, early 80s, my dad would take me to Venice Boardwalk. We'd go all the time on the weekend, which, looking back, I'm going to call a questionable parenting move. But there was a lot going on there, and some of what was going on there was sort of the mid days of Dogtown. Right. And there's a lot of skateboarding, and I feel like just my whole life I've never been a skater. I had a brief stint of skating to and from class at UCSB. Okay. But I feel like I've always been around that culture. So I was down at Venice Beach one day, and there's an amazing skate park that, some of the original guys there had built. Right. And went and took pictures of it, and I looked through my camera and I thought, oh, I understand this because I've been watching it my whole life. Right. And I feel like I understand how to shoot this, and I know who these guys are. Not that I know these specific guys. Sure, yeah. And, you go down there enough, and they start, like, inviting you in. You get a little more access. And it's really fun. And I love shooting movement, people doing things. So to me, and they all want their picture taken. Right. So It's a great combination. And then I was going to Cuba just because I had always wanted to, and thought, oh, I wonder if there's skateboarding in Havana. And I Googled it, and it turns out there's a really great skateboarding scene there, but very DIY.
Interesting.
There are no skate shops there. Like, how would they get equipment?
Right.
And I found an interview with a guy in Miami who is, born and raised in Miami, but of Cuban descent and a skater. And what he does is take a group of people, whoever wants to go, to Havana every year, and they bring equipment for this crew in Havana.
Right.
And it's so I went with them twice, and it's such an amazing group of people from this side and on theirs, and kind of an amazing amount of access.
Yeah, I'm sure.
A totally different way to see any city, but especially Havana, to hang out with a bunch of teenagers and 20-year-olds and follow them around skateboarding.
Right. And how was this, did you photograph this over multiple trips to Havana? Was it just during the one? How long were you there? Yeah,
I went twice. And so that's the thing, it's like I was saying, it's a hard project to focus on because you can only do it when you're there.
Right.
It's hard, especially when you're a mom. It's hard to go to Havana because you're basically cut off for a week. Wi-Fi is sketchy. Your phone won't work.
Yeah, of course.
It's a long trip, and so that was a little limiting to me. I would love to go back because some of those guys, I keep in touch with them on Facebook.
Oh, that's cool.
It's fun to see them grow up. Some are in America now, which is great, and it would be nice to reconnect with all of them. Yeah,
I'm sure. Now, something I noticed about your photographs too, they're all in black and white. And I'm curious, what was? It's a choice every photographer makes. I'm going to shoot in black and white. I'm going to shoot in color. Sometimes it depends on the project, or sometimes it's just flat. I'm doing this or that.
Right.
And I'm wondering, what was it for you that kept you with that started black and white and kept you with it?
Right. Look, it's not that I've never photographed in color.
Sure.
I've photographed in color plenty.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those things, like eventually you start seeing how you see and what is a picture that I want to represent me.
Right.
And some of it is sort of wanting to keep a consistent feel to my work and what I put out there. And then also, I like film. I prefer it to digital. I try not to get it involved in the wars of one versus the other.
It's pointless.
It's pointless, but it works for me. That's it. Yeah. And I feel like, I shoot with a Leica, and I feel like the camera works for me.
Sure.
So it's as much the machinery as it is, the film or black and white or anything.
Yeah.
And then, when you start shooting in black and white, you start sort of seeing things in black and white, or seeing pictures that would be good for black and white. And it's really hard to switch, at least for me, it's hard to switch back and forth.
Yeah, no,
So I kind of think you just have to marry one or the other.
I know. I definitely understand that. Is there a particular focal length that you like shooting at? Because it looks like a lot of the images are wide angle or wider.
Yeah, I've been shooting with a 24 for probably the last, somewhere between I've gone between a 28, 21, and 24 last couple years. I don't like changing my lens. So, it's amazing what a difference it makes. If I put the 28 on, I feel so restricted. It's like seeing in black and white. You get used to seeing,
That's true.
Some amount of space. For me, my brain doesn't switch that quickly. So might as well leave it.
Yeah. And is there a particular type of black and white film you like?
I used to shoot with Trax a lot. Now I'm shooting with HP5. I don't know. It's working right now.
Whatever works.
Whatever works. Whatever's in my camera bag.
Yeah. No, that's true. And you had mentioned using 4x5 at one point.
Yeah, that's more recreational.
Okay.
Is not. I have one. It's beautiful and in my living room. But It's almost more decorative at this point. It's, I think once you really become an expert in
A
loading
certain
film
thing.
and
Yeah.
setting that up, like to me, it's such a labor to
I
do. I think it has beautiful results,
I can
but
imagine.
it's work and it's not as mobile as I like to be. But I think it's fun to play with other formats once in a while.
Yeah, yeah, no, I can imagine, and I have, so I get it. Now with putting the book together, I mean, the Charth Vader was something of a collaboration between you and Charlie, and then the bookmaking was a collaboration between you and David, putting this, and maybe other people who have looked at the work. And what is for you? What is the value in that collaborative aspect of it? How has that helped you?
Well, for one thing, it was just more fun to do it with someone else. But also, he has a ton of experience.
Right.
And so for me, sort of questioning what I'm doing, this is my first time out, it was not just helpful, but reassuring.
Yeah.
To know someone that sort of knows the landscape. He's obsessed with photo books, and knows them all.
That's true. Yeah.
And what was nice was that we could talk on the phone. He'd say, "Okay, go get this book." We could each look at the Lee Freelander, Cars book,
Right.
and talk about some aspect of it.
Yeah.
So it was really great to have that kind of experience as part of the team. And then, like I said, he just knows everyone.
That's true. He does.
So the guy that did pre-press for his book did pre-press for mine, and they have been friends forever. And that's an easy relationship.
Yeah.
Kelton, my printer, Chuck Kelton, who prints all my images, I know from David. So it's been kind of a real point of access.
No, it's
also just the way he knows everyone.
Yeah, no, that's true. And was there a point in working on this, because you had said earlier that you were trying to sort of kind of like find images, like kind of find your eye in terms of, maybe I'm not saying that correctly, but in terms of getting into the swing of taking photos of family, like images that were yours, that you could say this is my photograph. Was it a gradual sort of easing into it? Was there a moment when you felt comfortable? Like, what was the sort of easing in process?
Well, like I said, I tried all these different sort of forced ways to do it. Part of my, I think I was interested in what I was trying to say, which was maybe overshadowing the just take a good picture.
Right.
And so I feel like the first sort of forced set and the taking pictures every 30 minutes was kind of a Stephen Shore, American Surfaces, like super mundane.
Right. Yeah.
It's funny because I was sitting with David and a bunch of my work one time. Maybe this was the turning point. There was all this sort of color mundane, like my trash can and just all this like hell.
Right.
And then there was the skateboarding and all this other work. And it was kind of clear, that the work I was doing at home was more of a forced put on something. And the skateboarding was really how I see.
Right.
I just needed to make the content of the images more personal. So then it was, okay, let's go back to black and white. Just shoot, no pressure. For me, it's always about taking the pressure off because I'm always wanting to focus. And I think sometimes you need to take time frames and goals and all of that. I'm always resisting that urge in me.
Right.
So it was a little bit about taking the pressure off, not trying to say anything too big.
Yeah.
Just taking good pictures while I was with my kids or at home.
Right.
And white the way I would shoot something else outside my home.
Right. Well, it seems like you've succeeded, at least Charth Vader, and kudos to you for doing that. Looking forward to getting my copy when I get back to New York.
Should be there.
It should, yes, and it will. Something I ask photographers in the course of all of these interviews, and it's tailored to the photographer's experience. If you could give one piece of advice to a photographer who's looking to do a project, a deeply personal project about, say, a close friend or family member, what would that one piece of advice be?
Find an editor that's not you.
Okay.
Because with really personal projects, certain images have more meaning to you. And I think the editing process, especially if you're making a book, the editing process needs to be kind of brutal.
Right.
You know, it needs to include sort of the idea as a whole. Mm-hmm. You need to think about things like, is this repetitive? Is this, does this add to it? Is this a good image photographically, which is sort of different than that was an important moment between me and my child or whatever the project is. And it's really, I don't know anyone that can do it themselves and be that impartial.
And is it, or rather has working on this project and working with an outside editor, I mean, who is a friend, has it helped you become better at killing your darlings, so to speak, in the editing process?
It's yes. I hope yes. I don't know. You'd have to ask him. I think so. I know what you mean, and there are still ones that I love. It's
hard.
Because it's my kids.
And, of course.
Maybe it's not that interesting. Or,
yeah.
So, I don't know. But I'm probably a tougher editor on myself. And I think those ones still slip by sometimes.
Sometimes they have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. And the project looks great, at least from what I've seen.
Thank you.
And I wish you continued success with everything.
Thanks so much. It's great to talk to you.
Thanks so much for watching. This has been ISO 400. If you'd like to see more of Ashly's work, you can go to her website, ashlystohl.com. And if you'd like to find out more about Peanut Press Books, you can go to peanutpressbooks.com. All of those links are in the description below. And if you like what we do, please hit subscribe down below and share this with your friends. Thanks so much, and see you next time.